Hey everybody, welcome back to the Great Bailout. Alright, so hopefully you've watched Back to Basics 2024, parts 1 and 2, so you can learn how to do this basic frame, and this one's actually traditional style. We did this one, which is also traditional style, but I handled the two front wires and the stone capture a little differently than this one. This one we turn out tabs, and this one we dislodge and bring up the front wires and wrap. All right, so the Back to Basics 101 shows you this one, and then Back to Basics 2024 Part 2 shows you a cute Bale design for that particular pendant. So in Part 2 I gave you this little top design, cutie little pendant, and so now we'll just continue with some more top designs. And you can go back and do your body works and set up your pendants, ready to go. All right? All right, so for this one, this is just going to be a Back to Basics 101, real simple upper design. I've got a real beautiful, slick, it's called, it's not a cat's eye. I think it's called tiger eye. This is not tiger eye. I can't remember, lion's eye, that's what it's called. This one, it's called lion's eye, like tiger eye, but not. All right? I got it from Deuced Gems. So thank you, Deuced Gems and Minerals, for a beautiful stone. I got a couple of them. Anyway, here we go. I did this with 4 banded 20 gauge square soft copper wires. I started with 12 inches. It's more than I need for design, but all of these I'm going to do 12 inches because that way we don't have to care about the size of our stone. My stone is 1 3/4 inches long and about 3/4 inches wide. All right, so I'm left with 3 wires and 3 wires after I used the 2 front wires to make a bail. I dropped the bail wires to the back. I'm going to leave them there for a minute. That's my habit, to see if I need them or want them. And I'm going to take these wires and just motion them up to the top, just like that, so I have room for work. I'm going to use the left-hand side first, the front one, take it down, curl it out a little bit. You can go out as far as you want or slim it in a little bit, just making a curve that comes to the bottom of my bale wrap there. And I'm going to kind of make like a figure G in the backwards. So just like that. It's, backwards G. Right? I'm going to cut this wire about 1/4 inch out from the bale and give myself a smaller wire to make a little spiral with. Take my round nose plier, turn my pendant upside down for some leverage, plus it's easier. I'm turning that way so I can turn into that space. Grip the tip, hold the curve, and then just make a cute little spiral going down and into your design space there. Just like that, nice big circle. Nice big spiral on the top of your pendant. Okay? We'll take one from the right-hand side, the front one. You could work 2 at a time if you want, but I'm going to work 1 at a time. I'm going to just swing it down, give it a little curve that kind of echoes the side of that first one, and just lay it down diagonally across your pendant frame like that. Make that as big or as little as you want. I'll take the one right behind it, and I'll get a little higher on the bend. So just put your finger there and get a little bend that goes a little higher. And then you can bring the curve down side by side to meet the other one. Just like that. Just a nice little ear right there. Okay. You can do this a 3rd time if you want. Take this, make sure that you have space for a bail. A chain through your bale. So we want to push these loops a little bit forward if you need to. This one too. Just bring it forward slightly. And we'll just maybe bring this one a little lower this time. So bring it out to the side. Put your finger there. Kind of bump it out right there so that you have a little extra swoosh right there. And then bring the extended wire back to the rest of them. Just like that. All right. So we've got them nice and lined up here. A nice long body of stone here that has beautiful pattern that I can, do beautiful work over if I want to. Or I can keep it sleek. I'm probably going to do a little something over it. So right here, I'll hold on to 2 of these wires. I'm not going to weave or anything on this one. I'm going to hold these designs down. I'm going to take the first 2, and without pulling or pushing so that I don't alter my design, just going to motion these wires to the back into a horizontal, soft 90-degree bend right there. So these are still laying flat, and these wires have come off the side. This one, I'm going to take here, I'm going to overextend it up a little bit so when it bounces back, it doesn't hang way low. It hangs right at those wires. So take it up a little bit, get it to where it bounces and lands right there. Then hold it right there, minimally, and take this down. Do a soft curve this way. So you have kind of like a little S going on there. Okay, I'm just going to trim this off right here at the body and leave a tiny little bit of wire to work with so that I can drop a nice little loop right here at the bottom of these wires. I'll use my round nose plier. I'm going to hold on to all of that right there so it doesn't move. And I'm not going to be on my stone. I'm just going to be a little bit above my stone so that I don't take my pliers across it. And I'll just make a cute little turn into a cute spiral. I got a munchy tip right there, so my trick is to get some very pointy tipped pliers, go right in there and crunch out that, snip out that little munch. You can come with a finer plier then, and you can ease this loop back into cute form, just like that. All right, let it live right there at the spot of the neck. Now with the 2 extended wires over here, I can do some more design and bring them down. Remember that it's coming around from here, so don't pull too much. So the 2 going horizontally this way, around and bring to this side of the loop. So in order to do that, I might need to lift the loop slightly. You don't need to take it out of shape or anything, just lift it. Get your finger on these 2 back wires so that we make a nice clean bend, and put your thumb on the 2 front wires so that they don't come out of shape when you push these 2 up. If you don't hold these 2 down, they flip forward, you see? Okay. You can sneak these 2 right underneath here. Get a nice slope on them so that they're coming right down against the other 2, just like that, right underneath that one. Keep them together, keep them close, right? It's all very close to the neck. And right here, we haven't tied anything yet. Put that loop on top of them, and then just hold it, and you can do these both at the same time if you want to. Just make a nice curve. About halfway down the body. I'll go ahead and curl it back the other way, so once I get that there, I'm going to hold it. Actually, let's take it all the way over the top. Hold that spot right there and take these 2 side by side. Just work them carefully. To get that a little smaller, you just go back and forth a little bit. Keep them side by side. Swing them back onto the pendant. Keep the tips up above your stone. And then I have some nice open bodies work, area down here that I can bring these back on in a curl, and I have a place that I can tie. So right here for this one, I'm going to trim it a little bit. Just make sure everything sits nice. Push it all down. And that's beautiful. You got beautiful, elegant lines going on there. So let's trim this inside one up. Just a tad bit, and we'll deal with it first. Okay. I've got about an inch from here to here. Maybe it's 1.25 inches or somewhere in between. I'm going to take my round nose plier, get on the end of this wire, hold everything steady down here with your finger so that you got a little tension right here. Just grip it nicely and do a back turn on it. Just stay up above your stone with your plier. It's okay if it pulls off the stone a little bit. It's long wire. Just work it patiently and make a nice back curl. Push it onto your stone. I'm holding this here so that when I push this way I get some leverage. And if you got a little munchie at the end like me, the trick is you get your snippers out and you just take the very, very tip of it off and clean it up. I always try to I hold that very tip because I know that that's the sacrificial part. I always snip that out because my pliers always dented. At least that's me. Maybe other people can do it without that. This one, I'm going to take it and just echo that first wire. If I can find my right plier. I'll just use my round one, I guess. Oh, here it is. I like to use a fine nose plier so that, just because I do, you can use your round nose too. So just take it and hold this curve down here at the body and turn this wire so that you're kind of echoing this other turn. Just like that, and drop it just slightly lower. Work it so that you bring it up right next to the other one. Just like that. And then with your fingers you can manipulate them apart slightly. And we'll snip this little end right here. Get them side by side. I'll take a clean diagonal snip straight across both of them to get them leveled off. The inside one's a little sharper than I want it, so just snipped it there. Okay, so you have that little bit of a design. You can continue with this one. I think I want to wrap it up a little bit. It's a little bit long, so I'm just going to take these up slightly. So I just shortened them up a little bit. Okay, so you kind of got that going on there, and that's very pretty. Just going to use my plier and manipulate that circle a little bit, that curve, and get them living together. When you love it, now would be the time to sand it as well. There. So my snip is nice and clean. All right? So that's very pretty. And now we'll go ahead, this one we might have to do something with as well. We'll see. It's short. It may live there. We have 2 additional wires up here. We have 2 wires in the back. I just went over them with the other one. And that looks really lovely so far. So if I don't want any more curly works on it, I can eliminate these wires simply by bringing them down and cutting them real clean right there and just, making a little bump out loop maybe. But we'll see if we use them. These two back here, I don't think I'm going to use them. I got a lot of wire going on. So I'm going to end them very nice and clean. I'll part them way up here where they are underneath. And I'll snip them out, leaving about 1/4 of an inch or somewhere in between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch. And then I'll use my fine plier, or I will use my round nose plier and just make a tiny little turn inward. So sometimes you have to pull it out and then turn it inward. Make like a little heart right there, and that just ends those two wires nicely. Make sure nothing else shifted back here and that all your wires still on the back of the stone. Your design is all beautiful and good up in the front. Okay, and now we'll see what we do with these two wires over here. So I like that it's swooping from the right into the left. I can continue some lefty design and come down, or I can part these. I've got 2 of them. I could take one to this side, but my eyeball already says I don't like it. So I'll do this. And if I don't like any of this, I can take it all off later, right? We can always do that. I'll bring the front one. I'll drop these two actually a little bit lower and start way down here. So I just brought them out to horizontal and dropped them lower on the bale there. So let's see. We'll make a nice, see if we can figure this out. See if I bend them to the back, one at a time, give myself a little, just a tiny little bump out right there. That might be enough. I can take this one up and I can echo that little bump out with just a nice line right there. And that kind of rounds off the top a little bit. It's probably rounder than I like. I got plenty of wire. If you like it, take it down this way, curl these out on the body, and then tie them to the back and be done. And then that little design is what you'll have. Then you'll tie this little front one. I think I'm going to do something different. So before I make any other drastic moves on these, I'm going to pull them out, separate them. Let me see. Let me see if I push this one to the front. Give it a little curl right there. I might not use the length of the wire. I might just make that little bit right there. I think I kind of like that. So I'm going to snip this one out. I'm going to take it out right down here at the base of the neck so that I allow myself just that little bit. And I'll clean off this end by giving it a little more of a turn into the neck. Let me adjust my camera so you can see that a little better. All I did was cut it and then give it a little down turn and push it into the neck. And I made it so that I can barely see it, but I can see it, right? It just adds a little kind of enhanced line right there, but not really anything. And then this one, I don't really need to take it down the body. I don't feel like I want anything else there. I got a bit of space right there. Could turn it up, right? You can always do that. So swing it to the front, get it in front of your bale into that little spot. Okay? Again, I gave us a lot of wire because I'm not sure what size your stones are, and if we go 12 inches, then all of these will work. So I'm going to take it to the front and go horizontal, get a nice tight line right there. Lift it up. Lift it over the top of that bale so you get just a little bit of a thing right there. Let's cut the excess off. Give yourself about 3 millimeters off the end of that bale enough to just make a tight, tight little curl up there. So I'm going to take my round nose, now that I have my wire cut and placed, and I'll come real tight. I'm holding that curve so I have leverage against that tiny little space. And I'm just going to turn a super tight little spiral right in there. Get my fine plier and tighten it up even more. Tap it down to the front of the bale. That's it. That's a cute little thing up there. And you don't have to do anything else. If you have a munchie, you can still get your fine cutter in there and cut the munchie out. I'm not going to bother. And that should be feeling all pretty tight. All right, so the only thing we have to do is tie this baby down, and then we're done. So I'm going to get some 26 gauge wire, just about 3 or 4 inches of it here. You don't need much. You could do this with 28 gauge wire as well. I'll come below the frame wire, so into the little spot there. Sometimes it's easier to start where it's bare down there. Pull this up, get your wire into that space where you can catch your decorative wire. I need a few more than that. Okay. And then right there, I'll lift that frame wire slightly and go under it. I'll make sure that the wrap catches both of those. Don't pull so tight that you take that side frame wire off track. Hold it all steady Betty. Get a real nice tight wrap on it. I'm holding the fragment, I'm holding my element. And I'm going to go try to get one more. So there goes 2 of them. And hopefully I can do one more. I like 3. And there goes 3 of them. Keep these wraps side by side, nice and neat, just like that. Okay. And that should keep those tied on right there pretty good. We can end the one underneath here, slip it this way, bring it to the single wire, hold everything, give a little tension and make big circles until it breaks. This one too, hold everything, don't pull your design out of shape, give a little tension on this wire and do big circles until it breaks. And then it's clean. All right, so there is Bale design number 1. We have a little spot down here for a bead ball if you want it. This wire you should check and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. If it feels like it's going to go somewhere, hold down the tip, push up the back slightly so that that tip lays down, and then do a little burnishing along those wires. Remember, we know how to burnish from the last video. So I'll hold my element. I don't have a burnishing tool, so I use my round nose. And I'm just going to burnish this one wire out here to harden it up. Burnish the top of it. Come all the way down here to the curve of it. You know, if you need to sink a tie right there, then do that. But that little burnishing probably will get it to sit there quite fine. Make sure this tip is down also and that it's not protruding. Hold the wire down, do the burnishing. You can likewise do the same along these wires here. Keep your tips up and keep the sharp part of the plier or your burnishing tool off your stone. You know, I could have pulled those out and hammered them flat and flared them and done cutie stuff like that. But this is a basics, so I'm not doing any of that. I'm just showing you basically how to do a nice bale design and then how to harden some wire up here. You stick some bead balls all in there if you want to. All of this should be pretty tight. It's pretty, and you know, you should have plenty of space there for a chain. Okay, let's drop a couple of beads or a bead ball down there, and then we'll call this beauty done. All right, in my case, the space that I have fits beautifully a nice big 6mm bead. And I don't know, I might have room for a 1mm on each side of it, but I like that 6mm, just the bead ball right there. So I might just do that. So I'm going to get ready with some 26 gauge wire, about 6 inches. So here goes my 6 inches gauge wire. You could also be doing this with 22 gauge half round. You could be doing this with 24 gauge wire. I know we don't use 24 that much, but 24 is a nice bigger wire, but not so big that, you know, you can't use it. So I slipped my bead onto the center. Just gonna bring this up here and see how I might want to tie it. I don't like the showing of the stretch wire there. So I'm going to add two 1.5mm beads to either side of this. Okay. 3 beads on here, a 6mm, and then two 1.5s, because that's what I think is going to fit down here nicely. So let me see how she goes. You know, ideally, I want to be inside that chamber. So I'm going to see if I can do it. I have these 2 back wires back here that I can tie to, right? I can also, because I want to be inside this chamber, I can also cheat and just move these to make my experience a little easier of getting those beads in there. So what I'm going to do in the back here very discreetly and very carefully, since my design's almost finished, is I'm going to unfold these 2 wires. So I'll just grip right here and just bend it back. Grip right here and bend it back. But don't close the space so that we can tie them, right? The beads. Just give yourself some more room. We'll take our bead wire, and I'm just going to make a crunch on the one end here so that I don't lose my beads as I work. And I'll just use the one side to begin with. I'm in the back. I'm going to slip in front of those 2 double wires, but behind the front wire. Give myself a couple inches. Let the beads all slide in there. You might have to push them in a little bit and get them aligned and make sure that they're going to sit okay before you go through the trouble of tying anything off. See if you're going to like that. I think that's going to look all right. The 2 little beads may not show that much, but it plugs up some visual space, you know, and when I get them tied off, it'll be a little neater than that. So I'm going to do that. So I've pushed the one side through. Get my beads backed off. 26 gauge is a little stiffer. So I've got clean wire right here. I'm giving myself a couple of inches out of this 6 inches. And I'm just, you know, maybe even not even a couple of inches, like it's 1.5 inches. And I'm going to make a couple of wraps right here along this side wire. The 2 side wires. Get a couple of nice tight wraps. I like to go for 3 because I like the number 3. And I've got them wrapped nicely right there. It might end up being 4 by the time I get the one back there, but I'm going to take and slide these into position. Straighten out your wire in here. Get the little kinks out and get nice straight wire. Drop your beads back into place. So I got the one in there. I'll push the second and the third one close, but you got to get this wire in there first. So we approached, take the wrinkle out of that, put a little curve on it. We went in between these two and the front one. So do the same on this side. Come in between those two, just let the beads flop a little bit, try to keep them to, you know, this side as you work your wire in there, and then try to align them together as you get the wire tighter. Ooh, and that looks really great. So now that they're in there, take the slack out, make sure all the slack is out, and then do the same amount of wraps right here. So there's one, and technically two. There goes number 3. And because I want 3, I'm going to back one of them off over here. Just push them closer together. I got a little slack right there. You see that? That's going to bother me. So I'm probably going to push this one out. I'm going to take that single wrap back out. See, I had these two crossing over each other, so that first one didn't land that tightly. That's okay. It happens. If you can't see it, don't fiddle with it. If you can see it, back it out a little bit, tap it down a little bit, and that's it. Try to make it a little look like it's not puffy. I'm going to cut this right here. I'll leave a couple of millimeters to spare so that I can turn that tip down. And then I'll just slip it to the inside of the frame right there. Okay, nice and neat. Same thing on this side. Make sure you got all of your slack out of the wire. Get the wire seated nice. Pull this to the back. Clip it with a couple of millimeters to spare. Take your fine plier, and you can actually turn this guy back onto the back of your frame. This one too. And that way you'll have a little more room to tuck that wire underneath there. Okay? And that's it, you guys. Make sure these beads are sitting nice. If you got to jiggle your plier in there and tap the beads forward a little bit, do that. If you have to adjust these wires in the front a little bit, you can do that. My concern is with seeing the big one. The two on the sides are just kind of space fillers. I got a little slack there, but that's okay. So I'll just fiddle that one. There it is. All right. Woo, she's a beauty. I hope you enjoyed this one, you guys. I love it. I'm going to patina this one all up and then show you all the finished ones at the end of the video. Or actually, I'm probably going to do a little string of these videos because then I won't have one 3-hour video. I'll just have several of these little 30-minute ones. Okay, enjoy, and I will see you for the next one. Much love. Remember, if you have tool marks, I like to use these 2000 grit sanding pads. They're foam and they're squishy, so they get into these little crevices. So if you have tool marks, you know, after you burnish or after you're working, hold your elements down and just take the sanding pad and give some love sanding to your decorative elements here. Get them nice and clean, and then you can go off to your polisher and your patina if you patina, or you can just go give a nice wash with soap and water to get your hand marks and your fingerprints and the working oil of your hands off of this beautiful pendant. And then you can enjoy it just as it is. All right, there you go. Woo, she's a beauty. All right, thanks you guys. Much love. We'll see you for the next one.